I think I may have accidentally created a new theory today, at least one that's going to help explain why there are indeed exceptions to the rules on my hair loss theories. Now, you know me, I always remind everyone, 80% of the time I expect my theories to be accurate, meaning 20% of the time we're looking at exceptions to the rules. In particular today, we're going to be talking about my theory that if you can grow a full beard by the time you graduate high school, you're more likely to go bald sooner. Whereas on the other hand, if you struggle to grow a beard, say even throughout your 20s and 30s and barely still can, you're going to be the guy who keeps his hair, most of his hair, for the rest of his life. To me, that's a very predictable thing, but there are definitely exceptions to the rules. And we're going to look at the comment section on Hey Bobby Bones. I already knew you wouldn't go bald because, to kind of back that up, which by the way, a reminder of why I made that video this week on the Bobby Bones Show, and that's like the #1 radio show here in Nashville. He said how he took his DNA test. The results showed that he will not lose his hair, and he was excited about that. And my wife called me and told me, and I said, yeah, well, I've always known that about Bobby Bones. Of course he won't lose his hair. He's over the age of 35, and he's got a perfect head of hair, and I can already tell he's not a hairy guy. I can just tell sometimes. I've never seen stubble on this guy. So I made a video to respond on that. These comments are going to illustrate the exceptions to the rule, and then I'm going to submit to you my new theory, which also goes back to DNA test, to possibly explain why there are exceptions to the rule. Our good friend Philly Boy Fitness says this, quote, well, not all bald guys are meant to be bearded and grow beards young and be hairy. I've seen tons of bald guys who are not hairy, can't grow a full beard, end quote. Definitely. And then NASA Lies, which welcome to our community of hair loss. I don't think I've seen you here before. Quote, I'm not hairy at all. I can't grow a beard. I'm losing my hair from the top. It's thinning. I'm 31, end quote. So we've got someone who, even though he can't grow any facial hair, he's got diffuse thinning up here, which is overriding the Norwood system altogether. He's balding, and he's only 31. So, going back to the DNA thing, and there's one more thing I got to say about that, because that's really the theme of this video. I'm talking about ethnicity, DNA, and how that might explain the 20% exception rule. I'm looking on my phone right now. I'm looking at, as it's so relevant to this video, I have another YouTube channel I started back in May, a second one called Family Friendly Daddy Blog. And all it really is about everyone talking about and sharing their results from their DNA test results. Like I went through MyHeritage. There's 23andMe, whatever it is. People are talking about that, finding out, hey, we're related, even though we never would have known that kind of thing, you know? So, and just check this out too. It's doing very well for me. This channel about hair loss has about 2,500 subscribers, and I'm scheduled to make $171 this month off of this channel. But my other channel that I just started has about 140 subscribers. It's scheduled to make me $85. So it's scheduled to make me about half the money of this one, yet it only has like a fraction of the number of subscribers. I think it's because they're clicking on the links from MyHeritage, because that happens to be the sponsor. Maybe they're clicking on the ads, I don't know. But as you all know, another one of my theories, in addition to the thing about balding and bearded, is that the more Asian you are, the more likely you are to not be able to grow the beard, but to keep the hair. The more European you are, or Jewish or Middle Eastern or Indian, then the more likely you are to go bald but have a beard sooner and be a hairy guy. That's another one of my 5 major theories that I've created. So let's are you ahead of me on this one? I think you are. What if the 20% of the rule, what about the guy who who's going balding and can't grow a beard, or on the opposite side of the spectrum, the guy who has always been hairy but is 45 years old and has a perfect head of hair? What if, I'm just asking, what if they're both? What if they are either getting the best or the worst of both sides? What if someone has a decent amount of the Asian side and a decent amount of the European side, and therefore it's in their DNA to be able to grow a beard, but it's also in their DNA to keep their hair? Or the worst case scenario, it's in their DNA to go bald soon, and it's also in their DNA to not grow facial hair either. because you've got two conflicting predictable backgrounds on DNA, but then you're both. And for example, there's certain even nations I can think of that are this way by default. Mexico, for example, you probably know my grandmother, Mexican, and based on my DNA, she was more largely Mayan and Aztec more so than she was European, because as you know, Mexicans are not a race. They're more of a mixed people group. First were the Aztec and Mayans, and then came the Spanish and the Europeans, and then they mixed. I'm sugarcoating that. And therefore, Mexicans today, and I can vouch for this because I have people responding to me and telling me this, for the most part, a Mexican person is going to show up somewhere around half Mayan and Aztec and somewhere around half European, for the most part. A little bit of African in there sometimes, and that's the case with me as well. But in theory, Mexican people could easily be more the exceptions to the rule. Also, Filipino people. Compare Filipino people to Chinese or Japanese. From everything I can see, Chinese and Japanese people are more of the same ethnicity, whereas a place like the Philippines has been ruled by other countries of European descent, which means that there's been more ethnic mixing over the years. So while they largely look Asian, if they were to take a DNA test, they may show up as 10% Scottish or whatever. I'm just wondering if the exceptions to the rules has anything to do with the predictability of their ethnicity. If we were to look at their DNA, is that guy who is starting to bald at 31 and still can't grow a beard, is there a chance he's got some form of Asian DNA? Because by the way, when I was talking about Mexicans, it's because remember, the Mayan and Aztec people, how did they get there? They came over from China, or from Asia, I'm sorry. They came over from Asia through the Bering Strait and settled that land long, long ago. They're descendants of Asians. That's why I'm saying that Mexicans have the mixed DNA. I didn't mean to, because did you know that that's how it works? Native Americans, Maya and Aztec, they came from Asia. It's Asian blood. It's in that same thing. That's why when you think of a Native American Indian, you don't think of a guy with a big bushy beard, do you? Yeah, exactly, because they're of Asian descent. So that's my theory to help explain why the exceptions to the rule exist. What do you think about that? And if you want to check out my other channel, it's Family Friendly Daddy Blog, and that's all we talk about pretty much is ethnicity.